This will most likely be the last video in the Thoth series, unless something unexpected will be discovered. We're now going to move into present time and look at a very mysterious figure commonly known as Maitreya. I wrote about him to quite some extent in the Wes Penre papers, The Fifth Level of Learning, but his persona is worth looking into again. He shows a lot of signs being today's incarnation of Thoth, but he also shows some other attributes that might contradict it. Either way, he is related to the Thoth agenda. It's hardly any doubt about it. Thoth has incarnated over and over for thousands of years, helping us build civilizations, introduce science, and create religions on behalf of his father Enki, in order to propel humanity forward in the direction they want us to go. In an additional video in this series, I said that we were going to dig into other characters in the history as well, such as Madame Helena Blavatsky and Joseph Smith, but Ariel and I have realized that we could go on with this series forever, so we need to be selective. Blavatsky and Smith were both messengers of Thoth, who appeared to them as an ascended master, and history is full of people who channeled Thoth when he was not incarnated. John the Divine, aka John of Patmos, was definitely one of them, but we also suspect that Leonardo da Vinci, John Dee, and Sir Isaac Newton might have been other messengers. When it comes to direct incarnations of Thoth, worth looking into are Sir Francis Bacon and Comte de Saint-Germain, to mention just two. Anyway, let's look at this curious character called Maitreya. The first clue is that Maitreya is the name of an ascended master, and he also is heavily supported by Madame Blavatsky's Theosophical Society, whose spokesman has been Benjamin Creme. Creme has reached millions of people with his speeches on the subject, holding public meetings, and had quite some media coverage over the years. He's also tied to the United Nations, which is crowded with theosophists, who support Maitreya as the new world leader. Maitreya can freely walk the corridors of the UN, and he's the spiritual and political advisor to people in great power, both in the UN and the United States government and elsewhere. The first time Maitreya was introduced to the general public was probably during a sudden appearance in a Christian community in Nairobi in 1988. This got a lot of media coverage, both in the newspapers and on television news channels such as CNN, and also in Japanese and British media, to name a few, and several village people were interviewed afterwards. What happened in Nairobi, and this is well documented, is eye-opening to say the least. For those who want a more expanded story of this event, please go to wespenre.com. I have also linked the paper to the description box below. The Christian village of 6,000 people had a meeting on June 11, 1988, when a stranger suddenly appeared from nowhere in the middle of this huge crowd. He was approximately 6 feet and 3 inches tall, white-skinned, dressed like a Bedouin in Jesus manner, and he was sporting a thick black beard. Because of his magical appearance from nowhere, the tribe thought he was Jesus Christ himself. He presented himself as Maitreya, and he held a briefing to the tribe for about 30 minutes in Swahili without an accent, although he's not African. In his pocket he had 4 15-inch long crosses, and he held one of them up for the crowd to see. He also magically cured the sick people in the crowd. This event happened in the middle of the day, but still a bright star appeared in the clear blue African sky above the village. Interesting enough, it has been mentioned elsewhere that when magical events like this happen, such as when Jesus was born, a star is appearing in the sky. Compare the Bethlehem star. Some say the Bethlehem star was not a star, but the soul of an ascended master showing up as an orb, which is the natural shape of a soul. Then Maitreya said he would return later with a bucket of blessings, whereafter he left the tribe and started walking out of the village and down the road. As suddenly as he'd arrived out of thin air, he also suddenly disappeared into thin air, witnessed by most of the village people, who all were in awe. Maitreya hasn't returned to the tribe since then, but he has been worshipped by them ever since, and they are still doing certain rituals that Maitreya asked them to perform. Does this sound familiar? How many times hasn't Thoth come, spread the teachings, and promised to return? And how many times hasn't he used his famous magic in front of his listeners? The pattern repeats itself, whether Maitreya is Thoth or not. There are pictures of the Nairobi event in the Wes Penre paper, WPP, I mentioned above, in addition to a copy of an article in a Nairobi newspaper covering the event. How was Maitreya able to just disappear and appear from thin air? It's simple. The overlords know how to cloak and uncloak themselves, and this is most likely what he did to make it look like magic when it's not. Moreover, Benjamin Creme says that Maitreya was embodied in 1977, which was 11 years before the Nairobi event. Again, how is this possible? It's possible because the overlords have adult bodies in stasis they can use, as mentioned in the WPP Level 1. Maitreya is not just any person. As mentioned in the WPP, many high officials have come out in public and talked about him with enthusiasm. Also, former Russian President Mikhail Gorbachev read some of the teachings of Maitreya related to economics and decided to incorporate them in a high-level conference held in another country. Later he was summoned by the monarch of this country, and he was told that he, the monarch, and his cabinet were very familiar with Maitreya, and they told Gorbachev that Maitreya is going to be the world leader. To promote this man, they wanted Gorbachev's name mentioned in conjunction with it. Another interesting story pertains to George Bush Sr. Wayne Peterson is a retired American diplomat who worked many years in Washington, D.C., appointed by the President in 1967 to the U.S. Information Agency's Foreign Service, and he has also been a policy officer at the United States Information Agency, USIA. He was once interviewed by Kendall Klug from the Vision magazine, where Peterson told the story about when George Bush, during the presidential election against Bill Clinton, used to participate in a transmission meditation group that Maitreya had asked the people to create around Washington, D.C. At the dinner one night, Bush asked the hostess if she thought he'd win over Clinton, and the hostess said, "No, Mr. President, you are not. Maitreya has already said you are going to lose to Clinton." Bush replied, yeah, and never challenged her. He sat quiet for a while, and then he said, "I think I've got to go now." Benjamin Creme has said that Bush often had discussions with Maitreya in the White House. Other high officials have had similar discussions with him as well. The goal of Theosophy is to create a one-world government and a new world order, where Maitreya will function as the world leader. Maitreya has said that he will communicate telepathically with people all over the world to have them embrace a world religion and a one-world government, and each person will hear this message in their own language. He also claims that he will explain the UFO phenomenon. The channeled entity Cryon's messages are also widely spread and channeled within the United Nations. Cryon promoting a similar message to Maitreya. I wrote about this in the third level of learning. On his website, see description box, just before he died, Cream relayed the last telepathic message he got from Maitreya, who told him that things better be prepared now because he is coming soon. To summarize, Maitreya is capable of magical things that we humans are not. He's walking the halls of the United Nations, more or less run by theosophists, and he can also move freely in the White House. Furthermore, he is the advisor to presidents and other high officials, or should we say that he is giving them orders and decides the outcome of events. Moreover, he claims to be the new world leader and the person to unite the entire world population, and he will send telepathic messages to us all in our own language. Also, he can cure the ill. He is obsessively supported by the Theosophical Society and high officials all over the world, and he appears in a white robe and a black beard similar to Jesus. Who is he? It's easy to believe that Maitreya is Thoth, but we doubt it. Although there are many similarities, there are also significant differences in his messages. Thoth is the spiritual and enlightening teacher, although he has taught us other things too, and to some degree it corresponds with Maitreya. However, Thoth never forces people what to do or comes across as an authority figure in the sense Maitreya does. It rather seems like Maitreya is actually Marduk, or an overlord working tightly together with him. Marduk's emissary, similar to Thoth being Enki's messenger? Perhaps, but he could very well be Marduk himself. It seems like Thoth has steered humanity toward the end times and the fulfillment of prophecy over the millennia, while Maitreya might be the one the prophecy is promoting, the Antichrist figure. The question remains, who and where is Thoth today? As of this date, we still don't know. Perhaps he is not currently incarnated, or we will perhaps find out about that later. Please feel free to discuss this matter in the comment section. Who do you think Maitreya is?